Hey everyone, Vale here at Mobalytics, and today we're here to talk about 10 of the most underrated champions that you can play in Season 12. Now, these are champions that don't have the best pick rates, but actually have surprisingly good win rates and perform well in a variety of ratings. Just to let you know in advance, Aurelion Sol will not be in this video. Yes, he's underrated, but he's such a niche pick, and honestly everyone should know about this champion having a high win rate despite never being played by now. So let's dive straight into it, and first off we're going to talk about Quinn. Now let's be honest, we all kind of cry a little bit inside when our top laner in solo queue insta-locks Quinn. She has such a unique playstyle, and most of the time she just gets camped and is pretty much useless. However, when someone who really knows how to play this champion locks her in, it's a different story altogether. Quinn is the perfect melee abusing champion in the top lane. She completely dominates those low range lanes, especially if they're relying on auto attacking, as her blind completely removes their attempts to trade with her. When playing Quinn, it's basically all about punishing your matchup as much as possible and making them regret queuing up in the first place. Press the attack works amazingly well with Quinn's passive, meaning she can actually deal some very unexpected damage, and she can catch her enemies out with cheeky all-ins. When playing Quinn, you can harass with your Q and your auto attacks and then back out of any unfavourable trades with your E. Not only does Quinn absolutely dominate those lanes, but she also has incredible roaming potential with her ultimate. You honestly can't do much against a Quinn who's flying into your lane consistently and bursting you down with ease. Immortal Shield Bow is definitely another reason why Quinn is so underrated too, as she gains so much from building this item, and it really makes her a huge threat from that top lane. Next up, we're taking a look at Shyvana. Now this champion for some reason is still an absolute powerhouse when she's built AP. AP Shyvana has a very unique playstyle. In fights, she will basically just be completely relying on her E to deal damage, but it doesn't actually matter, as this ability just seems to one-shot everyone. Shyvana is all about farming at the speed of light and getting a lead from just obliterating camps and then walking out of the jungle with 6 items and destroying everybody that she sees. Now you're definitely going to need to be careful when playing Shyvana though. If you go against someone who can gank you often and invade you and prevent you from power farming, then you're going to have a tough time. You definitely do bring some damage to the table once you've completed that Nash's Tooth, but getting to that first item is definitely your priority. Shyvana simply doesn't offer the same pressure as other junglers, and if they punish the map enough before you get rolling, this will be your main problem. However, this champion is definitely a 1v9 machine, and if you do manage to get to those item power spikes and your playstyle fits the bill, then this could definitely be a great champion for you. On to our first mid lane pick of the day, and it's going to be Diana. Now I don't actually know why people ever stopped playing this champion. In my opinion, she's still just as scary as ever in the right hands. Her mid lane win rate is actually much higher than her jungle one at the moment, and I think she's close to coming back into favour like she was during a large part of Season 11. Diana's ability to win games by herself is undeniable. She can jump in and delete entire teams by herself, and due to her mobility she can follow any squishies that are trying to escape. Diana is one of the most scary champions to play against when she's ahead, and there's really not much counterplay to her combos, especially if you don't have those summoner spells up. Diana's passive makes her not only good at diving in and bursting down her enemies with her ultimate, but also strong in extended fights, especially if she goes for a Nash's Tooth too. The damage this champion can do to single targets, multiple targets, and even entire teams is definitely underrated, and if you enjoy Diana, you best start playing her in the mid lane again. In the bottom lane first, we want to talk about Seraphine. Now this champion actually hasn't had the best success as a support, which is actually her main role, but mainly because there are other champions who can punish her, or champions that can just do her job better and with less risk. But if you play her in the bot lane and build some AP, she turns into a different champion altogether. The damage Seraphine does is actually incredibly surprising, and pair that with her ability to heal and shield her entire team too, she becomes insanely useful. There's also nothing more satisfying than landing a 5-man Seraphine ult. It's an immensely fun ability to use, and it can be game changing. Now Seraphine bot is not something you can really pick with the wrong matchup though. If your support is a Blitzcrank, it's probably not going to be that effective, but if you get another enchanter like a Lux or a Karma, you're going to have a really fun time. Absolutely unkillable due to the shields and heals, but also a brilliant amount of damage. If your team is lacking some AP and utility, and you fancy playing something a little bit different in that bot lane, Seraphine could be that pocket pick that you always needed. Now we're going to talk about Maokai in the support role, and this champion is definitely more powerful than people think. His ability to lock down his enemies with ease, poke from afar, and crowd control entire teams with his ultimate are able to win games easily. Maokai's early all-in potential from level 2 and 3 is incredibly potent and can easily set up that bot lane to snowball. The fact that Maokai's W is actually impossible to avoid too means you can abuse it pretty easily in the bot lane, especially when paired with an AD who can capitalise on this with their burst, like a Jhin or a Draven. Maokai also has a ton of self-healing and poke in his kit too, all of which make him that much stronger and harder to punish. Maokai can benefit amazingly well from Imperial Mandate, or even go for an Evan Shroud, both of which allow him to dominate lanes once he's completed them. Some people already know how strong this support is, and some people are definitely sleeping on it. But either way, Maokai is a very underrated contender in the support role. Back up to the top lane now, and this time it's all about Warwick. Now Warwick has been the dark horse of the last year, and despite not having the highest play rate, he's incredibly strong and hard to deal with. He feels seriously unkillable in some matchups with his mental self-healing from his passive, and his sustained burst and CC make him so flippin' difficult to actually lane against. Now we all know that Warwick can be a demon in the jungle, but those same strengths he has there actually benefit him hugely in the top lane. Some players have been having a crazy amount of success by rushing Blade of the Ruin King. This works so well with lethal tempo and your passive, making you genuinely impossible to duel, especially if you've taken barrier as well. Warwick is so difficult to play against when he's ahead, as his kit just snowballs out of control, and especially in the top lane, people will not be able to fight you once you start gaining momentum. Top lane Warwick loves a cheeky 1v2 as well, and this is an easy way to carry from the top lane, especially in solo queue. Now if you like playing champions that tilt your enemies from the get-go, Warwick is definitely an underrated champion to go for. Our other jungle pick for the day is going to be Sejuani. Now Sejuani has been overshadowed by her tanky peers so far in the last few months, and honestly we don't really know why. Sejuani is the definition of a tank jungler. She has a tasty amount of crowd control, damage, and can be a nightmare to deal with once she gets a lead, and she'll just absorb so much damage whilst dealing a shed load too. Sejuani is pretty basic in her kit and also super easy to be effective with. Her ultimate can absolutely destroy a specific target whilst also slowing everyone around them, helping to disrupt teams and win major fights. Sejuani also has really good mobility for a tank due to her Q, allowing her to get into fights or to get out of sticky situations easily. Now there's not much really more to be said about Sejuani's itemization though, as you literally just build every tank item you see, depending on which enemy has the biggest threat. Who doesn't want to be an unstoppable brick wall riding a pig? Sounds pretty fun to me. Back in the mid lane, and it's going to be the one and only Master Baker himself, Pantheon. Now Pantheon is the definition of an early game stomping powerhouse. He's literally purpose built to slap those lane phases and gain such a lead that he can walk around the map and one-shot anyone he sees. Pantheon is definitely a high risk, high reward champion. If you get behind, it's probably a go next, as you're going to feel completely useless. If you get ahead though, the Summoner's Rift will become your playground and you can simply do whatever you want, popping heads left, right and centre. If you have the right matchup you can abuse, you can literally dominate them without much risk of counterplay, unless you get heavily camped of course, but if so, you'll probably just end up killing the jungler too. Pantheon is a champion you'll definitely climb with if you can understand how to influence the game with him once you've got a lead. And remember, if you play this champion, you shouldn't really be farming unless you're planning on farming your lane opponent. If you have an aggressive early game playstyle and a thirst for blood, Pantheon is definitely up your street. Our other bot lane pick of the day, and I'm sorry that you're going to hate me for this, but it's Yasuo. Lethal Tempo has made Yasuo a real problem so far in this preseason, and it actually complements him super well in the bot lane where those consistent fights seem to happen more often. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Yasuo bot lane, let's pair it with Malphite support or something, but actually no. Yasuo actually works best with a sustain heavy support. Give him a Soraka or a Sona and he genuinely becomes so strong in this lane. Yasuo can jump in and out of waves and fight whenever he wants, all with the safety of a pocket healer. Yasuo can also farm under turret stupidly easy with his Q and E, so it doesn't even matter if you're getting pushed in. Plus you've also got that wind wall to fall back on, which is amazing when versus champions with hooks or just high cooldown threatening projectiles in general. Now you're definitely going to need to understand this champion and have some mastery on him to make this work properly, as he does take some getting used to, but if you can pull it off, it really does work well and you can easily carry those games from the bot lane. The great thing about playing Yasuo in the bot lane as well is that you can easily transition into a side laner. If you gain a lead through kills or CS, you can absolutely pop off when split pushing and cause your enemies some real problems. Now moving on to our last pick of the day, and it's definitely not one for the faint of heart, but it's actually going to be Telia support. Now this is probably the most underplayed out of all of the champions we've spoke about today, but if you're good enough at this champion, she's an absolute riot. Telia has always famously been known as a champion that takes a lot of skill to be good at, and this makes her equally as effective in the support role. Talia's damage, poke and insane burst makes her an incredibly irritating and difficult champion to lane against, especially when all you want to do is farm. If you pair Talia support with a bot laner who can capitalise on this burst, or even better, contribute some CC, then Talia will just pop off in this lane. You can go for a Luden's Tempest and burst your enemies down, or even go for the cheaper option Everfrost and lock down your foes until they tilt and surrender. Talia not only has great qualities that shine in the bottom lane, but she can also roam and gank super effectively, hence why she's always been great in the jungle. Talia gains movement speed by walls, making her get around the map super quickly, and she's always got that ultimate to be somewhere in a flash and cut off teams in a heartbeat. If you're planning to impress your pals with a niche pick that takes some serious skill, Talia could definitely be the one for you. So that's going to bring us to the end of this 10 underrated picks for Season 12 video. Hopefully you guys will have success with these champions, and let us know in the comments of any other champions you've been playing that are super underrated at the moment. Thanks for watching guys, we shall see you in the next video, and as always, take care.